Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints dropped their second preseason game out in Santa Clara, 16-10. They lose to the 49ers, although we've talked about, I don't really care about the result of the game. That's insignificant. It's more about how they played and what we learned, and we talked about that a little bit, in the second segment of the show there in hour number one. And I think there were some really good things. I think defensively, the Saints were quite good. I loved some of those defensive packages that we saw. That sort of NASCAR package look whenever Chase Young's on one end, Carl Granderson's on the other. Cam Jordan kicked inside, and Brian Brzee was there. That looked really good. I like the depth in the secondary. That's something that's exciting, is to see that even when Marshon Lattimore isn't there, you have guys that can. Kool-Aid McKinstry went down. You had guys that stepped up. Rico Payton, Shamar John Charles was really good as well. So you've built some really nice depth on the defense. It underscores something that I think every one of us knows and we talk about here, but Dennis Allen is a really good defensive coach. No one has ever debated that. The least of which is me. As much as I do criticize Dennis Allen, the head coach, with his warranted, it is also undeniable that Dennis Allen was a giant part of the last decade of Saints football being really good defensively. When the thing went off the rails with Rob Ryan, it was bringing Dennis Allen back that steadied that ship. And even as a head coach, the Saints defenses have been good. So that part of it's impressive. It's just, do you believe they can figure things out offensively to be a championship caliber team? And that's the giant question everybody has. But don't want to lose the point. Defensively, it was a little disappointing to see some guys go down. And rookie second rounder Kool-Aid McKinstry, who was so good in that opener at cornerback, went down on the opening drive, did not return. It was a knee injury, and Dennis Allen after the game had this to say about McKinstry's injury.
He has a knee injury. I think we avoided, anything serious. Now, what kind of time we're looking at, I really have no idea. But I think we escaped that I think we escaped the game, at least on initial report, without any major injuries.
No word on timeline. The great news is you escape major injury, right? That's the great news. I mean, you hear knee injuries, especially in the preseason, skill position guys, super athletic like that, stop, start, agility, you worry. But seems like they escaped anything major, which is great news. But it's also not ideal. I mean, obviously, right? You lose a guy to injury, it's not ideal. But maybe underscored because, McKinstry's emergence here in this camp and in the first couple of preseason games, it's kind of given the Saints latitude with Lattimore's injury and his contract situation. So we've talked so much about Marshon Lattimore's future in New Orleans, and rightfully so. I think there were very legitimate considerations, if not conversations, about trading Marshon Lattimore. I mean, do you want to extend him? Is this going to be his last year in New Orleans? If it is, do you trade him now to get something for him instead of watching him leave after this season? I think all those are conversations that have to be had. But when you have, it's the reason they drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry. It's why they drafted him. You're going to pay Paulson Adebo after this year. And you've got Alontae Taylor, who's played really well at the nickel and can probably play safety for you as well. You drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry because of this. And the fact that you appear to have hit gives you a safety net. It gives you leverage in any type of conversation. And if you went into this season thinking, all right, McKinstry and Adebo could be your corners, then you could trade Marshon Lattimore and get some type of draft capital back. At this point, especially because of this injury and maybe the uncertainty, I would say that you're probably more looking at a Lattimore trade if it happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't know. But what would seem more plausible right now would be at the trade deadline. So the trade deadline is actually Halloween. It's October 31st. So if you look at where the Saints, that would be after the Saints' 8th playing date. So if you were to look at the Saints' schedule and where they would be at that point, here you go. So the Saints' bye comes in week 12. So if you look at the schedule, the trade deadline would come after the Saints play at the Chargers. So you open up against Carolina at home. Let's say you win that one. You're 1-0. At Dallas, Philly, at Atlanta, at KC. 3 of your next 4 on the road. You're probably an underdog in all 4 of those games. Let's say you manage to steal one of them. I don't know that you do. There's a real chance you could be 1-4 through 5 weeks. I think best case probably 2-3. Then you're home against Tampa Bay, which I think in your building, in the Dome, is a winnable game. And then you get Denver on a Thursday. So short week, but you're home. And then you get a long week and you're at LA, where you're probably going to be an underdog on the road in that game. So I think through 8 games, probably 3-5. I think a best case is you beat Carolina. You steal one of those next 4, Dallas, Philly, Atlanta, KC. So you're 2-3. And then, you win 2 of your next 3 with Tampa and Denver at home and then at LA. Best case through 8 weeks, I think you're 4-4. I think worst case, you're 2-6. Split the difference, call it 3-5. If you're 3-5 through 8 weeks, are you thinking, move at the trade deadline? Are you thinking, dump assets to recoup draft capital to contenders? Maybe. I don't know that right now, especially with McKinstry's injury and the uncertainty there, that's plausible. But it's something that feels more realistic once you get into the season if McKinstry's back healthy and the Saints are losing, which is not something I'm cheering for. I want to be abundantly clear before we go in the season. I am not a tank guy. I'm not I want to see my team lose guy. I want to see the Saints win every freaking game they play. But I'm going to give you honest opinions, and my opinion is that's not going to happen. I think this is a sub-500 team that's probably a 5 or 6 win team. That's what I think they are. That's what I think they are. They may do better than that, but I'm just giving you an opinion. And you have an opinion just like I do, and we all have our opinions of what the team will be, and we'll see what it is. Odds makers say over under 7.5. So they think they're an 8-9 or 7-10 football team. I think they're probably a little bit worse than that. But the real positive in all this is the cornerback depth, right? You have Lattimore, Adebo, Taylor, Kool-Aid. You've got those 4 guys. You seem to have hit here on Rico Payton, who has been really impressive. Our buddy Ross Jackson over at LouisianaSports.net voted Rico Payton his dog of the day for the game, so big time standout. So I would love to see that. If you're wondering, by the way, this is something worth keeping an eye on as well. Went back and checked. Last year in the first 53, when the Saints cut down from 90 to the 53-man roster, they kept 6 safeties. Now JT Gray's in that number, right? You're talking about a guy that's a safety by positional definition, but really he's a special teamer. And just 4 cornerbacks on the roster a year ago. So if you look at it now with Lattimore, Adebo, Taylor, and Kool-Aid, that's 4. You have room for Rico Payton. I mean, he's played well enough to deserve a spot, but if you keep a 5th corner, then where do you maybe are you leaner at another position? And I don't have the answer to that. But that's the numbers game that this coaching staff is going to have to figure out and play with as they get closer to that cut down date with the 3rd and final preseason game coming up on Sunday. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.